Yep, I left the intro in because it's still the same. It's still Loading Screen Simulator 2019. Nothing has changed from the VIP demo. Oh boy. Let's get into this. Baldur's Gate 2, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This is BioWare we're talking about here. The master storytellers, creating narratives with impactful decisions. Anybody remember deciding whether or not to cure the entire Krogan race of the genophage? Even my wife, who's generally not into video games, was absolutely glued to the screen following the story in both Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. Thank you for the help with the mining, by the way, baby. How does such a lineage bring us to Anthem? So, fart sound effects aside, let's talk about my first impressions of Anthem. It's not going to be all bad. How does it differentiate itself from the other big players in the online looter shooter genre, such as Warframe, Destiny 2 and The Division 2? Are the issues we saw in the VIP demo still there? An overabundance of loading screens, crashes to desktop and other weird bugs that we saw? And has the performance improved on PC? These are the type of things I want to look at in this first impressions video. So, in case you don't know, Anthem is an upcoming, always online looter shooter game as a service, and it's developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. It's one of the newest entrants into the looter shooter arena, and as such it faces some competition from some well-established brands and well-respected franchises like Warframe or Destiny. Now, it's actually a small enough pond, but the fight for attention in this pond is a fierce one, and it's an area where people generally feel a lot of ownership and attachment to a game that they may have sunk many hours into. So Anthem is going to need to stand out. It's going to need to do things differently and address some of the age-old issues these types of games, such as being grindy and repetitive, have had. The game is based around the concept of a co-op experience, so you will be playing with random folks on the internet unless you have a group of friends that play together. There's currently no PvP and no firm plans to add it, so Anthem is a PvP only experience, at least for now. You and your friends play as freelancers, the typical and somewhat over cliched bold and the few, willing to venture forth and do what needs to be done in high-speed combat suits. One traverses the game world in an Iron Man suit called a Javelin. Now, Javelins are powered exosuits worn and piloted by freelancers when venturing into the world beyond Fort Tarsus. That mistake was hilarious and it's staying in. So there are 4 different types of Javelin, each with its own traits, and as you can imagine they follow the standard RPG archetypes of all-rounder, heavy damage dealer, light and fast but fragile, and mage wizard style guy. The Javelins are of course flight capable and totally awesome to experience in this way. They can be controlled just as well underwater also. As you fly around, your jets and your suit will begin to overheat, but they can be cooled down by going into a steep dive, flying through a waterfall, or finding some other water source to cool yourself down. And each of the Javelins has a distinct feel, and you'll certainly find one to suit your style. I'm a Colossus man myself, which is kind of the big heavy damage dealer. In most of these types of games, the story is a fairly standard concept. World is created by ancient beings with great powers. Generic villainous group seeks to take it all away. A war ensues and humanity is left as a ragtag bunch defending a ramshackle home. Welcome to Fort Tarsus, one of humanity's strongest settlements and what you're fighting to protect. Except you really won't care about your precious home, as most of it will represent yet another loading screen, and we'll get to that more later. A place where you must walk around at a slow pace everywhere, and where conversations with dull NPCs just hold you back from more Iron Man time. The folks you talk to in Fort Tarsus range from the awkward encounter that in real life you would try to politely end ASAP, to quipathons with the local witty comeback champion. It's just a bit lightweight for my taste. Why can't we have some substance in our characters? You know, like in Mass Effect 3. So I have a high tolerance for grinding and looter shooter style games. They do appeal to me, and if I added up my time into Division, Warframe and Destiny 2, it would come to about 250 hours, but even I have limits. Let's just answer the big question: does Anthem radically reinvent the genre? And the answer is no, not at all. It introduces some cool new mechanics, which we will get into, but it doesn't do anything to stand out from the others. Missions feel repetitive and oddly mapped out despite the huge world. templates. One is a template of another. The endless loading screens, my god, I am not joking, the endless loading screens really affect the pacing. And if you think I'm complaining about a small thing, here's a real actual experience in the game that you could have multiple times. Okay, start game, press space to load, loading screen. Enter the forge, loading screen. Start your mission, loading screen. Mission crashes, loading screen. Fall behind a group because of the crash and have to be teleported to them, loading screen. Mission ends, loading screen. And then you're back to entering the forge again, because rather than dropping you back into the open world, loading screen. And by the way, each of those loading screens, I have timed them, are from 1.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes in length. If you think I'm joking, go and look at Angry Joe's video where he shows his actual video editing software. He shows where he cut out the loading screens and actually the footage of the mission. And the footage of the loading screens is longer than the actual time he spent playing the mission. By the way, thank you Blinky in the background for all of the noise. There's a cool feature called the elemental combo system, at least that's what I call it, where you can chain your abilities together with that of your teammates, and it's really satisfying to pull something like this off. In fact, I see this and working together with your other abilities forming far more of the meta than any gun that's in the game. Cooldowns on skills recharge very quickly, and most weapons, on the other hand, have a vague description of what they actually do or how they will work, and that you really have to just kind of equip them to find out what they're going to do. And it's usually an exercise in whatever is the biggest number increase, and hope that the 3 loading screens later it will be a weapon that you like to use. So it is nice that that's a difference between this and other looter shooters, in that you can use your abilities far more often. It's just a shame that the guns and other weapons are just a little bit uninteresting. Mega fail next. No stat screen. Actually, no stat screen for your character. So how the heck are you supposed to create a build if there's no stat screen to give you insight into how powerful your particular build is in specific areas? It's a pretty unbelievable omission in a game centered around, well, increasing your abilities, increasing those numbers. So another fun thing that can happen, let's say you're in a down state, i.e. you've lost all your health. You just need a revive, right? Well, yeah, for sure, but what if the other person's AFK? Well, you're out of luck, as there's no access to menus when you're in this state, so it's a Control F4 to force close the game for you, my friend. Fort Tarsus. More like Snort Fartus. This place, here's a very quick run through. You can only walk slowly, everywhere, all the time. The only places to walk to are the same quest givers or cosmetic stores. It's a truly deflating experience every time you arrive and realize you have to go talk to these people. It's a place of long cutscenes that fail to draw you in at all or have you care about the story at all. It feels like a place that exists between you and the fun stuff out in the world, a place to get out of ASAP. Insert loading screen, by the way. The population do their very best to add some feeling of a story or of a greater world, but just present themselves like tired NPCs from a bargain basement or PG, not our beloved BioWare. It doesn't matter what you choose in the dialogue trees, by the way, you arrive to the same outcome, so why are there options? Well, that's to give you the feeling that there is more going on than there actually is. The various dungeons I discovered while exploring the map were fun and challenging to a point, but again, more of the same. The high-level enemies contained within them did make me think about how I would use my abilities and weapons, and for the first time ever, it really felt like a challenge in the game. Outside of that, the alleged open world feels more like a series of districts or areas on a map separated by, yes, loading screens. The only way this is going to be fun is if you have friends to play it with, where your own banter and hijinks may get you past the cutscenes and oh so samey missions. But hey, they say the same about Fallout 76. Gameplay. Exactly what you'd expect, and no real difference in variety from what we saw in the VIP demo. Fetch quests, more fetch quests, machines to fix and then defend, glowing orbs to grab and place somewhere so some other machine does what it should, all interspersed with cutscenes and going to talk to some key figure. There really is not a whole lot to say. There are bosses, there are mini bosses, none of them are a challenge. I have seen people walk right up to an end level boss and just slash away for a minute or two completely unchallenged. I'm not joking. Enemies will sometimes just not react to you at all, or walk slowly away, clearly not aware of your presence. When they attack in groups, they can be a challenge, and gunning them down in these scenarios is fun, but wielding a huge gun and cutting down a horde of minions is always fun, to a point. No one talks to each other in VoIP, and there's absolutely no incentive to do so anyway, when the game will just teleport you as soon as you decide something interesting might be slightly off the track that you're following. It really removes all of the challenge. As mentioned, you're going to have way more fun with your abilities and ultimates than you ever will with your guns. Loot is boring, but you get a lot of it. There feels like no real reward for completing a mission though. At least Destiny drops a gigantic loot chest in there. I had in my time a number of crashes to desktop, all followed by, you guessed it, loading screens. Sorry, that's it. There's not a whole lot more I can say. You've seen all of this kind of stuff before. Controls. There is a focus on verticality, of course, as you're able to fly. Now, the control system has been improved since the demo. They have taken that feedback on board, but it still feels like how it should, piloting a big, heavy lump of metal through the air. And piloting your javelin is truly amazing, and I never got tired of it. In fact, I felt like I kept learning new stuff all the time, and this was just with one of them. There are 3 others, and they would all have their own nuances to discover and master as well. Now, you can use the same jets you do to fly on the ground in order to dash and double jump, so there's a whole ground aspect to the control that you need to master also. It's all very rewarding and feels really great to use. The voice acting is actually pretty superb. It's just a shame that they don't have anything of substance to say. There is a good array of accents used, but it's still a bit American English heavy. A couple of times all of the sound effects and music would disappear and return at what seemed like random intervals for me. A lot of the times you might think that music is missing, but it's kind of intentional. I think that sometimes music is left out and then rolls in at a maybe dramatic moment, or when a mini boss or a boss comes along. And I actually like that. I actually prefer to just hear the sound effects of the game sometimes rather than having a soundtrack going all of the time. So that was nice. Anthem uses the Frostbite 3 engine, which is now the mainstay of all of EA's big titles, including the last 2 Battlefield games. The game does not run great on my system. 95% CPU usage and a lot of screen tearing that gets resolved by a restart of the game. It seems kind of random. I do have a G-Sync monitor. I managed to get about 70 FPS in Fort Tarsus and 40 to 70 in the open world. Now, I should mention my resolution is 2560 by 1440, and as mentioned, there were a number of crashes to desktop and also a number of network failures, both of which kick you from the game, and also loading screens after. The in-game world does of course look amazing, as we've seen in previous Frostbite engine games. I'll let you take a look now. Once the game world actually finishes loading in, the transition from flying to ground movement or underwater movement is absolutely seamless. So let's sum up and circle back to our opening questions. First question we had was, how would Anthem differentiate itself from the other big players in the online looter shooter genre like Warframe, Destiny and The Division? The answer is that it does not really. They took the same manual titled How to Create a Looter Shooter and applied everything they read. The opportunity to be different and to disrupt this genre was there, but instead we have a boring RPG wrapped in a bog standard looter shooter. The other question we had was, are the issues we saw in the VIP demo still there? The loading screens, crashes to desktop and other weird bugs, and they are still there. The loading screens took about 1.5 minutes to over 2 minutes when I was timing them. I didn't time all of them, but they certainly represented the experience I had. The game crashed a number of times, and I don't just mean once or twice, I mean a number of times. I witnessed bugs like textures and other game assets popping in, all audio missing for a time, only to be mysteriously restored. The other question we had was, has the performance improved on PC? Not really. I had unexplainable screen tearing on a G-Sync system. The only way I could resolve it was to just exit the game and restart. By the way, loading screen. Very low FPS in the game, and my system is not really a slouch either. In conclusion, it's no Fallout 76, but still highlights the fact that developers and publishers can no longer get away with pushing subpar, low effort and almost downright juvenile content past its consumers. The game is being almost universally panned in reviews, and I'm really sorry that this has happened to BioWare, but it's about time that developers and publishers wake up and realize that the kids that played their games have grown up now and might like to be treated with, respect as a customer with a brain. A kind of funny final thought. I must hate this, right? Well, not really. I don't hate it. It just doesn't have enough to push it into the must-have section. If my friends are playing, I will be also. After it gets a discount, which I feel will probably be very soon. I do love this type of game. I just wish the developers could also show some love rather than throw a lot of templates at it. And I am worried. I am worried for BioWare now. After Mass Effect Andromeda, and now this, and we know what EA's run is with games that don't perform to expectations. Let's hope that this is early days. Let's hope the day one patch addresses some things. Let's hope the future brings better things for Anthem. As it is right now, as it stands, I couldn't recommend it. Wow, what a downer, but I gotta tell you the truth when I see it. Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please leave them in the comments down below. I'm new to this, I'm still learning, and all feedback is greatly received. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please do like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.